And then something nudged my shoulder. Half asleep, I thought it was her coming back to bed. What's wrong? I mumbled. That's when I heard it. A man laughing. Right next to my ear. Not across the room, not near the door, right at my ear. Every single hair on my body stood up at once. My eyes opened immediately, but I didn't move because I knew there was no one supposed to be that close to my face. I thought, I'm dreaming. I have to be dreaming. Then it laughed again. Closer. In horror movies, this is where the guy jumps up and fights something. In real life, I thought, if I don't move, maybe it won't know I'm awake. I squeezed my eyes shut again and pretended to be dead. The laughter came a third time. Same spot, same disgusting proximity. By then, I was half terrified, half annoyed. Like, what is so funny? And then my brain betrayed me. I remembered the naked uncle, the nod, every him nodding, and a terrible thought formed. What if whatever is laughing in my ear is also naked, like that guy? But ghost version, just crouching next to my pillow, laughing. Once that image formed, I couldn't unsee it. Some invisible, damp, middle-aged ghost, completely unclothed, leaning over me like this was prime entertainment. And that's when the worst thing happened. My mouth twitched. I was still scared, but the image was so stupid I almost laughed. Imagine lying in bed, being haunted, and trying not to laugh because you're picturing a naked ghost uncle giggling at you. My shoulders started shaking from the effort. As if offended, it laughed again.
An old friend of mine from Taiwan came to visit me in the UK recently. It was their first time here, so of course I did the usual things. Took them to see the city, pointed out all the tourist spots, then ended the day with a big dinner at a cosy little place near my flat. By the time we finished eating, it was late. The restaurant was starting to empty out. We were full, they're a bit jet-lagged, and that comfortable kind of tired, where people start talking more honestly than they normally would. Somehow, we drifted onto the topic of ghost stories in different countries. I mentioned how British hauntings always seem to involve castles and grey ladies.
You think that's bad? Taiwan has malls and hot springs that are worse.
His wife rolled her eyes and said, "He's what we call stupid but blessed." I asked what she meant. "He walks straight into haunted places and never notices until someone explains it to him," she said. "And somehow he's still fine." He grinned, took a sip of his drink.
You know what? That's not wrong. Let me tell you what happened to me. After you hear these two stories, you decide if I'm stupid, blessed, or both. Back when I just started working, I was obsessed with midnight movies. I lived in a southern city. Let's call it South Harbor. And there was this old, famous mall everyone knew. I'll call it Starlight Plaza. The cinema was on the top floor. It was perfect for me. I'd get off work late, grab a quick dinner, then head straight there for the last show. Midnight screenings are unbeatable. Hardly anyone in the theater. I could sit wherever I wanted, stretch my legs across empty seats. No kids kicking the back of my chair, no couples whispering. Just me and the screen. Most nights, I'd walk into the cinema around 10 p.m. and come out at 1 or 2 in the morning. And by then, the mall was different. Most of the lights were off. Only the emergency exit signs glowed green in the dark, and here and there a lonely ceiling lamp buzzed faintly. The escalators stood still. The food court tables were empty, chairs left slightly crooked like people had just stood up and walked away mid-sentence. I loved it. It felt like I'd rented the whole place. Just me, the night guard somewhere in the distance, and the vending machines humming to themselves. There was just one problem. My stomach. Every time I watch a movie, I have to get popcorn and a large cola. And every time I get popcorn and a large cola, halfway through the movie, my intestines file an official complaint. So every midnight show came with a predictable intermission. Me hurrying out to the restroom. That's where things got strange. The first time, I didn't really think about it. The second time, I paused for a second and thought, huh, that's weird. The third time, I realized it wasn't normal. The bathroom was freezing. Not cool, not air conditioned. Freezing. Almost colder than the theater itself. I'd push open the stall door, lock it, sit down, and it felt like someone had installed an AC vent directly under the toilet. Not on the wall, not overhead, under it. The toilet was just a standard mold stall, but every time I sat down, an icy draft would blow straight up from beneath the bowl. My whole backside would go cold instantly. You know that feeling when you sit on a metal bench in winter? Like that, except there was wind. Actual wind. I'd tense up every time, and the door was useless. The latch had to be broken. That was my logical explanation. Because every single time I locked it, it would unlock itself. 3 separate nights. I'd slide the latch in place, sit down, get ready to do my business, and then, click, the lock would slip loose. The door would slowly creak open, and there I'd be, pants around my ankles, lunging forward in panic to yank the door shut again. I kept thinking, this mall is so fancy, but they're too cheap to fix their bathroom? I've tried different stalls. Same freezing wind, same sliding latch. By the third time, I was done. I was so annoyed. Like, okay, ghost, can you at least let me finish? I didn't actually think it was a ghost, of course. I just thought the maintenance sucked. So I kept going, kept watching movies, kept running to the bathroom, kept silently complaining about bad construction. I didn't connect anything until the office conversation. One afternoon at work, we were chatting about movies in the break room. I mentioned how much I loved going to Starlight Plaza for midnight shows. The top floor cinema is amazing, I said. Almost nobody's there that late. I just go alone and relax. The room went quiet. Hua Tian from accounting frowned at me. You go there alone? At midnight? Yeah, I said. Why? You should stop going, he said. That place is not clean. I laughed. What are you talking about? The toilets smell like flowers. It's super clean. Well, he didn't smile. I don't mean that kind of clean, he said. You really never felt anything? I hesitated, and suddenly I thought about the freezing bathroom, the doors unlocking themselves. Well, now that you mention it, I told them everything. The ice-cold air under the toilet, the latch slipping open, how it happened every single time, even in different stalls, how I just assumed the locks were loose. As I talked, their faces changed. When I finished, nobody spoke for a couple seconds. Then, Hua Tian leaned forward. That's not a broken latch, he said quietly. You know what that place used to be? I shook my head. Execution ground, he said. Long time ago. Old city days. They sentenced people there. Heads rolled there. Just hearing that made the back of my neck prickle. At night, when you're watching your movie, he continued, they're wandering around the mall. I tried to laugh. He didn't. I have a friend who sees spirits, he said. Every time he drives past Starlight Plaza after midnight, he sees a whole crowd of headless ghosts drifting around the main entrance. Bodies in old clothes, walking into each other, bumping, like they're searching for something on the ground. I swallowed. For what? For their heads. My scalp tingled. Before I could respond, Apang jumped in. My buddy's kid freaked them out in that same mall, he said. Underground parking lot. The kid had hurt his leg earlier that week, so when they were walking back to the car, he started dragging one foot. Left, drag. Stop. Right, drag, stop. He held his arms out in front of him like he was hugging something round. His dad asked, "What are you doing? Does your leg hurt?" The kid shook his head. "No, I'm copying the uncle next to me." "Which uncle?" "The one with no head," the kid said happily. "His clothes are all ripped and he's holding something here." Apang mimed cradling a head in his arms. Everyone winced. Then Xiao Chen spoke up. "My daughter saw things there too," he said. "We were shopping in a hallway corner. She stopped and started waving at the wall." "What are you doing?" he asked her. She smiled. "There are so many hands sticking out of the world, waving at me. I'm waving back." By that point, even the hairs on my toes felt like they were standing up. That was when it hit me. Maybe it wasn't just bad construction. I sat there replaying every midnight in my head. The empty cinema, the freezing stall, the door opening. "So when I'm in there playing on my phone," I joked weakly, "you're saying someone's under the stall blowing up to hurry me, and someone else is outside pulling the door like, 'Hurry up, we're waiting.'" They laughed, but it was nervous laughter. It was getting late. We were the last ones in the office. The overhead lights hummed faintly. Outside the big glass windows, the city was mostly dark. Just a few lonely street lamps and distant building signs glowing. "Okay, enough ghost talk," Tian said. "Let's go home, before I scare myself." People stood up, grabbed their bags. I was sitting with my back to the office door, facing the big window. The glass reflected the room dimly like a mirror. As I bent down to unplug my laptop charger, I heard Apang's voice. "Hey, who's that?" I looked up at the window. In the reflection, I saw all of us. Me sitting at my desk, Apang standing with his backpack, Xiao Chen shrugging on his jacket, and behind my reflection, there was someone else. A girl. She was standing just behind my chair, slightly to the left. Her hair hung straight down, covering most of her face. Her clothes weren't office clothes. They were loose, long-sleeved, something between a school uniform and an old-time dress. The proportions felt wrong, like the reflection was stretched slightly. Her head was tilted, as if she were watching me pack up. No one had opened the door. No one had walked in. In the actual doorway behind me, nothing. In the reflection, she was there. "Don't move," Tian said, his voice thin. My hand froze on the charger. "What?" "Behind you, in the glass," Xiao Chen whispered. I didn't turn around. I only looked at the reflection, my own face, my coworkers, and just behind my reflected shoulder, her. Head slightly bowed, listening. The air felt colder. For one long, fragile second, no one breathed. Then the motion sensor lights in the hallway outside clicked off. Zzz. The reflected doorway went dark. She disappeared with the light. The actual doorway was empty. No footsteps, no sound. "Turn on the lights," Xiaohua hissed. We laughed too loudly after that, said it must have been an angle, another office's reflection, someone walking past. But when I went home that night, I couldn't stop thinking. If something was really in that mall bathroom, maybe it followed me back. Maybe it was standing there behind me while I was bragging about not being scared, thinking, "You really don't get it, do you?" I stopped going to midnight shows after that. Daytime only now. You'd think that would be the end. It wasn't.
When he finished the mall story, the table went quiet for a moment. Then his wife sighed. "You're unbelievable," she said. He frowned. "What?" "You sit in a haunted bathroom scrolling your phone, and you're annoyed at the ghost for rushing you?" Everyone laughed. She shook her head. "You're so stupid." He opened his mouth to protest. She leaned back in her chair. "But You're blessed. She wasn't teasing, but it was almost matter of fact. Blessed? He asked. She nodded. Other people would have panicked, or gotten hurt, or followed something. He just laughs. He pointed at her. That's not a compliment, Li Fen. She smiled slightly. No, it's survival. There was a pause. Then he looked at us.
You want to hear something worse? He said.
And that's when he started talking about the hot spring.
This one was about 2 years ago. All I wanted was a soak. That's it. No ghost hunting, no exploring abandoned buildings, just hot water and silence. Li Fen and I decided on a whim to drive up to a famous hot spring area in the hills. Let's call it Bay Ridge Springs. It's one of those mountain towns where the air changes as soon as you roll the windows down. Cooler, damp. You can smell minerals in the air, like wet stone and sulfur. We had a favorite inn there, small, cozy, safe. But when we walked in without a reservation, the front desk smiled that apologetic smile you know is bad news. Fully booked tonight. I remember standing there for a second, still holding my car keys, feeling the disappointment settle in. The lobby smelled like wood and hot tea. Other guests were already walking around in slippers and bathrobes, looking relaxed and smug. We were about to give up and drive back down the mountain when we noticed the old hotel next door. That place had been under renovation forever. Every time we came before, it was covered in tarps and scaffolding. But that night the tarps were gone. The sign was lit. The entrance looked new, bright, almost too bright compared to the older buildings around it. Want to try that one? Li Fen asked. I looked at it, hesitated for half a second. We're already here, I said. Worst case, it's haunted and we leave. I was joking, obviously. The lobby was surprisingly nice, like aggressively nice. New tiles so shiny they reflected the chandelier overhead. The floor smelled strongly of lemon cleaner and fresh grout. The air still had that faint new paint smell, like the place hadn't fully aired out yet. The front desk gleamed. The staff uniforms looked crisp. Everything about that front half screamed, "We are renovated and respectable." Not bad, I whispered to her. Maybe we found a hidden gem. I'm picky with hotels, especially old ones pretending to be new ones. So I told the clerk, "Can we see the room first?" He smiled politely. Of course. We followed him upstairs, and that's when things shifted. It wasn't sudden. It was gradual, but noticeable. The glossy tile ended halfway down the corridor. Under our feet, it changed to wooden boards. Not cute rustic boards, old boards. The kind that dip slightly when you step. That creak loudly even when you're trying to walk lightly. Each step made a dry, hollow sound that echoed longer than it should have. The walls changed too. The paint wasn't fresh here, slightly yellowed, slightly uneven, like someone had painted over age instead of replacing it. I remember giving Li Fen a look. She gave me that same look back. You know the one. We have made a decision. On the right side of the corridor was a long row of windows. Through them, you could see the back of the property, a slope of dark mountain rock, moss creeping up the edges, and below that, a central courtyard. I leaned slightly toward the window as we walked. That's when I saw the frosted glass door on the ground floor, the kind you see at shared hot spring pool. Behind it, a blurry shape moved, slowly, getting closer. I stopped walking for half a second to watch it. The silhouette grew clearer against the fogged glass. Broad shoulders, round head, moving directly toward the door. And I remember thinking very clearly, Please don't let this be how this trip starts. The shape stopped behind the glass. Then, swish, the door slid open. A completely naked, middle-aged man stepped out. Not strategically covered, not holding a towel, just fully out there. Then, he looked up at me like this was a completely normal exchange, gave me a small nod, like, evening. And when he nodded, I saw so many him nodded. I froze. The clerk behind us laughed. "Oh, that's the public bath," he said casually. "Guests don't mind being seen." He doesn't mind, I thought. I mind. Li Fen elbowed me hard and whispered, "Stop staring." "I'm not staring," I said. "He stared first." We kept walking, and the floor changed again, from wood to bare concrete. The air got cooler, slightly damp. The lights were dimmer here, not flickering, but softer, like they weren't replaced during renovation. Later we found out the hotel was actually two separate buildings merged together. The new block was just the front, lobby, and a few premium rooms. The regular rooms were in the old structure behind it. And the old structure did not care about appearances. Outside along the walkway, the concrete walls were streaked from years of rain. Rust clung to the metal railings in thin orange lines. The mountain wall pressed close on one side, moss thick and dark against the stone. In the courtyard below sat a small concrete pond. The water was not clear. It was a dense, unmoving green. Grass and weeds had grown so high around the edges that parts of the surface were nearly hidden. The water didn't ripple. It didn't move. It just sat there. Even from the second floor, I could smell it faintly. Old water, damp stone, something slightly sour. I leaned toward her and said quietly, "If this turns into a horror movie, I'm blaming you." She said, "You're the one who said haunted would be fun." Fair. Our room was on the top floor, second from the end. As we passed the last room, another couple stepped out, carrying towels and laughing about something. I felt actual relief. Okay, living people. If something screams tonight, at least we won't be alone. The clerk unlocked our door. Inside was a short entryway leading straight to the bathroom. On the left, a dressing table and a small wooden table with two chairs. On the right, a double bed. And at the foot of the bed, a huge mirror covering almost the entire wall. I stopped. "You see that, right?" I said. She laughed. "It's for making the room look bigger." "No," I said. "It's for giving people heart attacks at 3 a.m. If you wake up half asleep, sit up, and see a human shape at the foot of your bed, you die first and realize later it's you." I didn't love it, but I told myself, there are neighbors. Stop being dramatic. We stayed. The night. We did all the normal hot spring things. Soaked in the outdoor bath. The water was hot enough to sting at first. Steam rising thick in the cold mountain air. I could smell minerals in the water, slightly metallic, slightly earthy. We had dinner. Simple mountain food. Soup that tasted clean and herbal. Grilled fish. Rice. By the time we returned to the room, the old building had settled into nighttime quiet. The hallway felt narrower at night. The concrete walls seemed to hold on to the cold. I could hear distant mechanical sounds, pumps running somewhere below. Occasionally, a pipe would knock softly, like someone tapping from inside the walls. We showered. The bathroom tiles were cold under my feet. The mirror fogged quickly. Just as we were climbing into bed, her phone rang. Her mom. Now, Li Fen on the phone with her mom is minimum 30 minutes. The walls felt thin. We could hear someone coughing faintly 2 rooms down. So she said, "I'll take it outside." I had soaked so long my muscles felt like jelly. The sheets were slightly stiff, hotel clean. The pillow smelled faintly of detergent. I fell asleep almost immediately. I don't know how long I slept. The room was dark when it happened. No hallway light leaking under the door. No TV glow. Just darkness. And then something nudged my shoulder. Not hard. Not violent. Just firm. Like someone leaning over to wake you gently. Half asleep, I thought it was Lee Finn coming back to bed. What's wrong? I mumbled. That's when I heard it. A man laughing. Right next to my ear. Not across the room. Not by the door. Right at my ear. Every single hair on my body stood up at once. My eyes opened immediately, but I didn't move. Because I knew there was no one supposed to be that close to my face. I thought, I'm dreaming. I have to be dreaming. Then it laughed again. Closer. Low. Breath against my ear. Like someone trying not to laugh loudly. I could actually feel warmth. I lay completely still. In horror movies, this is where the guy jumps up and fights something. In real life, I thought, if I don't move, maybe it won't know I'm awake. I squeezed my eyes shut again and pretended to be dead. The laughter came a third time. Same spot. Same disgusting proximity. By then, I was half terrified, half annoyed. Like, what is so funny? And then my brain betrayed me. I remembered the naked uncle. The nod. Every him nodding. And then a terrible thought formed. What if whatever is laughing in my ear is also naked? Like that guy, but ghost version. No towel, no shame, just crouching next to my pillow. Laughing. Once that image formed, I couldn't unsee it. Some invisible, damp, middle-aged ghost, completely unclothed, leaning over me like this was prime entertainment. And that's when the worst thing happened. My mouth twitched. I was still scared, but the image was so stupid I almost laughed. Imagine lying in bed, being haunted, and trying not to laugh because you're picturing a naked ghost uncle giggling at you. My shoulders started shaking from the effort. I guess he was offended. It laughed again. This time there was a slight edge to it, like, why is this guy not reacting correctly? And I cracked. A tiny snort escaped my nose. The second the sound left my mouth, silence. Complete. No breathing, no laughter. Just my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I didn't move. I counted in my head. 5, 10, 20, nothing. A minute later, the door clicked softly. Li Fen came back in. You fell asleep already? She whispered. I didn't answer. I lay there stiff until morning. Next day, in daylight, the place looked less dramatic. Still old, still rusted, still that unmoving green pond, but normal enough. I didn't ask the staff anything. I didn't want to know if someone died there, or if the buildings used to be something else. I just knew one thing. I'll never booked that hotel again.
When he finished both stories, the Midnight Mall and the Hot Spring, he sat back in his chair in that little UK restaurant and laughed. The lights were dim, the tables around us half empty, the windows reflecting more of the inside than the street. So that's why my wife say I'm stupid but blessed, he said. I go to a mall built on an execution ground, sit on the toilet scrolling my phone while someone's literally blowing cold air up at me, then tell ghost stories in the office while something stands behind me in the reflection. Years later, I accidentally choose a hotel where some guy thinks it's funny to lean over strangers and laugh in their ear. And somehow, I'm still alive, with just a few extra grey hairs. His wife snorted. He is absolutely stupid, she said. But I guess he's blessed too. He grinned. Although, sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I don't open my eyes right away. When we stood up to leave, he checked the reflection in the window first, just quickly, like someone who wasn't entirely sure he was alone.